So everyone's calling this a scary film, but if you've ever dated a Latina in your life, then you will all know that this is more like a documentary. Hey everyone, thank you so much for tuning into my channel. I really appreciate it. If you love these movie discussions, please consider leaving a like and to subscribe to my channel. It's really a great way to support me. I love giving my takes on new films. Now, with that out of the way, let's get into today's topic. So I recently had the pleasure of watching Obsession, directed by Curry Barker. The film follows Bear, played by Michael Johnston, who has a deep crush on his coworker Nikki, portrayed by Inde Navarrette. Sadly, Nikki only sees Bear as a friend. She even calls him her brother. But driven by hope, Bear discovers a strange novelty called the One Wish Willow. When he wishes for Nikki to love her, it triggers a dark change in her, turning Nikki into a relentless pursuer. It's a chilling twist on the be careful what you wish for theme. One thing I have to highlight right away is the cast, especially Inde Navarrette. She's taken the internet by storm with her chilling portrayal of Nikki. People have been sharing stills of her expressive mannerisms, especially that iconic sad frown she wears. Now, out of context, some of these stills definitely seem a little bit funny or at times a bit ridiculous. But in the context of the film, especially in the theater, they made you feel very uncomfortable. It's really that unpredictability in her performance. She starts as this sweet, caring friend, but once the wish takes hold, her transformation is terrifying. And in these moments, especially in the scene in the dark corner with her makeup, she really grabs everyone's attention. I think just like Jenna Ortega in X or Mia Goth in Pearl, this is a breakout role for her, and she's definitely going to be a horror icon in the making. By conjunction, we have to shout out Michael Johnston as Bear. The film hooks you right away with that opening monologue, where Bear is practicing laying his heart out bare, no pun intended. Johnston really nails this awkward, hopeless romantic vibe, so deeply in love, so obsessed, right from the start. And as the horror kicks in, that discomfort, that fear of how to respond, it mirrors us, the audience, when we're watching this film. We don't know how to react, and Johnson really makes us live that uncertainty, not knowing if it's the wish, if it's real, or how to protect ourselves and others. He did a fantastic job. It's really refreshing to see young and up and coming actors get a chance like this to really show off their raw talent. The cast in this film really shine, and there's a really huge hunger among the audience for fresh talent. But what makes this really exciting is that we're seeing a new wave behind the camera as well. Curry Barker is that young up and coming director we've all been waiting for. He started off as a YouTuber creating offbeat sketches, and now he's giving the chance to direct what might be one of the best horror films of the year. It's a risk, one that many studios are not willing to take, but the investment in Barker is incredible. Whoever gave him that chance definitely deserves a lot of credit. I remember seeing the trailer when I was watching another movie, and I was immediately hooked by the concept. And to see his journey from the start of YouTube to where he is now is just incredible. And we're seeing this more and more, like Backrooms by A24, directed by Kane Parson, or even Markiplier with his film with Iron Lung. And we can't even forget about Shelby Oaks, directed by Chris Stuckman. You see it, YouTubers and young visionaries taking a leap into Hollywood and finding success, creating buzz with original ideas. And even though the theme, be careful what you wish for, is a familiar one, it's Barker's original spin that pulls us in. He's definitely a director to watch out for. Going back to the film, I want to highlight the cinematography, especially the aspect ratio. According to Google, the film was shot in a 1.5:1 aspect ratio. This is sometimes referred to as a 3:2 or 4:3. This gives it a taller, narrower frame with those black pillars on the side known as pillar boxing. I think it's a really clever decision by the director. It squishes the frame, forcing your eyes to focus on what's right in front of you. Without a wide shot, you feel confined, and this heightens the tension, making the disturbing scenes even more intimate. It keeps us locked in on the performances, and I think it was a brilliant choice by the director. Furthermore, I wanted to highlight the deliberate use of a very shallow depth of field in the film. This gives it a dreamlike, almost nightmarish quality. Things feel a bit fuzzy, and especially with Nikki, it makes things very unclear. You can't fully make out her face or what's happening in the background, which forces you to focus in a subtle way. There are little Easter eggs tucked in, and that shallow focus makes the whole film feel like a distortion of reality, like we're caught in a dream we can't fully grasp. An honorable mention as well is the music. When I was watching the film, I got a lot of vibes similar to Stranger Things. But what's interesting is that the score doesn't rely on typical horror elements like constant violins or overtly scary sounds. Those are there but are used more intentionally. Instead, the score juxtaposes what we see with what we hear. It's a very soft, very warm, almost Stranger Things like, but with a welcoming, dreamlike quality. And I loved it every time it came on during intimate scenes. It made you feel safe, but it then was immediately undercut by jump scare or a disturbing image. That created this cognitive dissonance where what we hear is so welcoming, but what we see is absolutely appalling. Finally, I want to talk about the overall themes of the film. There's a lot of debate about what the film truly means, who Nuki is possessed by, what it represents, but for me, it's actually quite straightforward. This dynamic where one person is completely at the mercy of the other for validation. Nikki's obsessed with Bear. She quote-unquote loves him, but she's driven by possession from the one Wish Willow. At first, it feels like a normal relationship. They cook, spend time with each other, it seems sweet. But as the film progresses, the love turns into obsession. It highlights a relationship where one partner clings not out of love, but out of validation. We see this in Nikki. She needs constant reassurance, and when she doesn't get it, she spirals. She's possessive, doesn't let anyone near Bear, and that dynamic creates some really tense, uncomfortable scenes. It's a fresh twist on the be careful what you wish for, but it asks, does Bear truly love Nikki? In my personal view, no. After all he went through, losing his cat, his grandmother, living alone, Bear clings to her, but not out of love. I think we've all seen friendships that cross that line, where one person confesses their love and it completely ruins the relationship. You might assume Bear loves her because they connect, because they're kind and spend time together, but when you really look at it, he wasn't in love, he was just obsessed. And when he finally gets what he wished for, it's empty. And this comes to head when Nikki regains herself briefly and begs for Bear to end her suffering, and he straight up refuses. This is the confirmation that Bear doesn't love her. He's just as trapped by his own obsession, and Nikki ends up becoming the victim. And in that final moment where Bear finally finds another One Wish Willow, he tries to get Nikki to wish herself back to normal, but instead she uses it to make Bear love her, and we see that wish actually work, which is the clearest proof that Bear never loved her. Because if he had, a wish wouldn't be needed. It's a heartbreaking look at a toxic codependent relationship, one that is isolated but also hurts everyone that's around them. So those are my thoughts on the film Obsession. I enjoyed this film so much. I highly recommend you guys to check it out in theaters. I don't think the Dolby Atmos version is available anymore. If it is, definitely check it out in that version because of the excellent audio and the excellent picture that you see on the screen. And I'm really curious to know about, your thoughts on the film, what themes stood out to you. And I'm especially curious about who do you think possessed Nikki? I've heard several theories about what could be the possible answer. Perhaps a demon, perhaps it was Nikki the whole time and she just didn't have any agency over her body. But one theory that I definitely did like was the theory about she was actually possessed by Bear's cat. The evidence behind that is just really in the way that the way Nikki acted and the way that she lashed out, peed on the carpet, stuff like that. Very animalistic. I actually do kind of agree with that theory, but let me know what your thoughts are. Anyways, thank you again for tuning into my video. I apologize for the delay. I've been having some issues with my health, but now that I'm feeling so much better, I'm gonna be bumping out his videos ever so often. So I have some movies that I definitely have to check out and get those reviews up. So thank you again. Thank you for support, and please consider leaving a like and subscribe. Thank you again for checking out my channel. Take care. Have a great day.